Hey guys, good morning. It's Jason here from the I Am Legion for Dying Light 1 and 2, and I'm continuing on development for 1.0. And yesterday I was working on the AI overhaul for the infected. I've been working on them for a while, but I'm continuing to try to refine them before releasing the official 1.0 to try to get them a little bit more immersive inside the game. And I discovered some stuff last night where I actually have them crawling through the city now, the volatiles, I mean, to where before I got the code working where they were actually exploring the city, they were moving, they were running around the city. Now I actually have them crawling around the city, and I'm going to try to take that even further today and actually make them a little bit more responsive, actually make them climb and explore the rooftops and that kind of thing. So just a heads up, I do have a little bit of congestion going on today, so I apologize that my voice is not as luxurious as it normally is, but we're going to try to make do here. Um, so, all right, let's get started. So as always, in the top left, I've got my extracted files. In the bottom left, I have my modded files. And then right here to the right, I have the actual Dying Light source file. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and share out on the Discord as well in case people want to come join. As always, if you're not a member on the Discord, make sure to follow the links, and we would love to have you guys there and come be part of the conversation as we're developing. So let me go ahead and get this sharing out. All right. You're now live on Discord, and I'll be keeping an eye on the Discord channels along with the YouTube channel. So reach out if you have any questions or if you just want to talk while we're going through this. Might have to make a couple of stops to get tea or something to help this throat, but we'll see. All right. So basically, what I did last night was the original code that I got for their movement through the city to get them actually moving was code that I tried to originally source from the humans. So they wrote the human AI to where they had the potential for patrolling, but then they never actually hooked it up. So I was using their original code to try to get them moving throughout the city. The end result was is that their movement, they would just kind of like sprint in random directions. It just wasn't very clear what they were doing and why they were doing it. And so, what I was trying last night was to try to better understand how the movement system works for the AI to determine if they have movement modules or if they, and what those are is basically each one of the AI have different modules that are being turned on and off for each different type of zombie. And movement modules are not always guaranteed for every zombie. You would think it would be, but it's not. And so, because of that, I wanted to start to see, well, is this solution the reason that it sometimes works is because is it tying over to the movement module or how's this working? So I ended up just writing some very simple lines of code yesterday using a couple of their different conditions, and that actually ended up working. So I have them moving through the city now, and that made me focus on the screamers. So the screamers, never really liked the screamers. I mean, they're okay, but basically they're so simple in their nature that where they just kind of stand around like camera systems and then they scream and that's pretty much it. So I've always wanted to see if I could actually make them more scary or more intense, to where you're actually avoiding them, especially if you have things like icons, kind of giving away their location. Well, if you're going to have the icons on, you might as well actually be like trying to avoid them. And if they're just down standing on the streets, especially inside the city, that becomes pretty easy to avoid them. So I was starting to look a little bit more at their behavior, and we'll continue on here. So let me go ahead and pull up the code that I wrote last night for getting them moving. So I had two different approaches here of trying to write this again, just a couple of simple lines. I was able to find the concept of the get position and direction. So basically, I'm getting their their position and their direction, and then I'm basically calculating a random float, and then I'm getting on a range a distance in front of where they're facing, and then I'm telling them to start moving in that direction based on a randomized amount of distance. And what that does is it actually allows them to go to a location, stop, turn, go in another rotation or location, and so they actually look like they're patrolling now. So that actually works out pretty well. What I don't have is the ability to like stop them, make them do something in between, all of that just yet. So next, I'm going to take this code that they wrote that is designed only for the Banshees, the one that I originally started tapping into at the very start of the mod, which is send them up so that they're creepily up high and then they're diving down onto the player. They get up off the ground so that way they're not just kind of standing there watching you from afar kind of thing. They actually go up to the tops of the buildings. And we can't immediately reuse this code because it's using the concept of they have to have a target. So if they have to have a target, then that's not really going to work because that's more of a combat system. So what we need to start looking at is how we can use their conditions to say, you know, for random exploration, do these actions, not when you actually only see an enemy, which is where a lot of these challenges have been. Is that I'm trying to do like the difference between do they do these things by themselves or do they only do these things when they see the player. And most of the code is written in a way that they only do things when they see the player, so I'm trying to stay away from that that side of it so that it's a little bit more they have their own understanding without the player having to be there. So what we'll do is that basically we're already getting positions. We're already getting a random position. So what I'm going to go in here and do, I was thinking about this code a little bit last night, is starting to find higher locations. So if we start to go in here and add, right now they're getting a random position. They're getting a position in direction. So then what if we start to say, okay, find closest elevator or elevated position. And so this time we can actually go in here and do a maybe on a cooldown kind of thing. First for testing, I'm going to have them do this immediately, which is they are going to get their move position, which we're already determining by this. So they're getting their random position. Or actually, this is going to be so self position. They get their self position. They get their search position. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to update that search position. So what I'm hoping this will do is it'll get a random distance from the actual AI, and then we'll have it get also the nearest, and this is probably not going to work. So this is probably going to end up just getting replaced by this operator. So I need to figure out how to sequence this to where it's additive, not replacing. But essentially, we want to send these guys up. So we'll start saying like, okay, they're down on the ground. They start looking around to try to find positions that are above their current position. Once they have that, this should now feed into their head towards the random position. So adding this line of code will probably just replace the get position and direction. So they're going to start going up. So we're going to go ahead and start testing this out to determine if this will get them climbing. So pretty easy addition there. I don't think, let's see, closest elevated height. This is only based on the target. We don't want to do the target. Distance between positions lower. We're not having them attack, so we don't care about this. And when they're doing the move, they're doing a much smaller amount of movement. This should be fine. And basically all of this code is just lined out. I'm using it for reference, but we'll see if this starts to do the actions that we want here. Hey. And I've started doing this as well, so I've mentioned it a few times on here. I keep trying to just mention the ordering here because it does get kind of confusing with all the different folders. Is essentially I just keep a high level folder that goes straight to the top of the mod in here as well, so you'll also see that here in the background. That's uploaded, so let's go ahead and jump on and see if these volatiles start climbing up. And I think basically what I'm going to want to do is once this is actually working correctly, this should now be kind of a staple for all of our climbing zombies. So for any zombie or human that we want to send upwards, we start to say like, let's start doing like branching logic to where we say, we want bowmen to start climbing the buildings and searching up high, and the melee guys to search low. Um, that split can now be achieved by trying to use this logic. So, if I get this working really well for the infected, I'm also going to try to use this code for the human AI, so that we start to have bowmen actually walking along the tops of the buildings, if possible. I mean, it's also one of these deals of where I know that they are falling off when they attack and that kind of thing, and so don't want to cause them to look too ridiculous, but do want them to be somewhat interesting. So last night I started playing with the concept of spitters using the same animations as the volatiles. This actually makes them very creepy. I love their audio. Oh, there we go. We got one climbing along the rooftop over there. But I was really enjoying listening to their audio last night. And for the first time, I actually felt kind of creeped out by the screamers when they were slow crawling through the city. But we have a couple of volatiles here. Let's see if we can get them. They are getting hooked on, so like right there we have like a little crosswalk thing, and they just didn't create the logic for them to be able to navigate those lower objects, which really sucks. But you can see we got screamers actually climbing through different interiors now. And the thing that I like now about the volatiles is they're now slow crawling through the city, so you can't hear them. Before you could kind of hear their foot stomps as they were running through the city. Now you can't hear them, so you'll randomly turn around and they'll be like up on a building looking at you, kind of thing. Kind of the cool thing is that you can hear the screamers. So the screamers have this like clicking. I think I just heard one. Yeah. The screamers have this like clicking noise that they make. So you will start to hear those crawling through the map. Changed his pathway there. I thought he was getting ready to climb up. Let's see if he goes up or if he's just kind of hugging the ground. They have some code in here that's so they're all still kind of following a pathway. It's very interesting. So it's like with the nav mesh system that they have in here, there's occasionally a couple unknowns with like how they all kind of start to follow pathways um, inside the map. You don't really, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but they all start to kind of follow the same paths. And this works for like the horde kind of approach. But you can see here we have two volatiles slowly, oh shit, crawling through the environment. Let's see if we get back away here. But before, I've been watching the like howler animations to determine if like I want to use the howler animations or if I want to shift them over to something more interesting like volatiles. And the problem I think I have with the screamers in general is that their animations and the virals. I've been watching kind of the animations they recorded for these guys, and they kind of have this like seizure like shaking and like and then they just kind of walk around in circles. Um, so there's like a pathway connection that is not set up right for them climbing. It's interesting. You always find when I do this testing, I always find oh shit. Oh fuck. And so with this new intensity code I wrote for these guys yesterday, they're also way more intense as far as like their attacking. So the idea here that I'm trying to balance is that if they scream, they'll bring down other volatiles, but they don't. So that mini chase idea. So have less of these guys throughout the map, and then have it to where if they actually spot you, then they start kind of a mini chase that you can better escape from. So it's not a full chase that requires you to go back to base, but it does get you moving. Crap. And I still haven't been able to clear the. I still haven't figured out a way to get the alert status so you can see the alert here where they're sensing me. They may not actually be sensing me. They may be sensing other humans as well. So if there's a human spawn in here, they basically didn't have the logic to determine whether or not they're after me or if they're after somebody else. And so you'll occasionally get this idea um, of like, oh god, they're coming after me, but they're not actually after me. They're after another human inside the environment. So I saw one at the very start. I had one volatile up here going across the lines, which looked really creepy. I liked, but so far I haven't seen them getting off the road yet. So let's see if I can find another one and kind of follow him around really quick. Just confirm that the code isn't necessarily making them immediately go up. And that's another thing, is that it needs to be kind of randomized to where, we don't want them always to just go up. It would be nice if they started going up on occasion. Otherwise, we want them to really just go explore the city. We don't want them necessarily always just going up to the tops of buildings and then getting stuck. Thought I saw him over here. There he is. Time to get to him. You can hear him. He must have heard me. Another thing that I want to try to balance out here is that basically the code is sending them in different directions right now. So there's a balance between getting them moving and then also allowing them to seek out noise. And so if the system is not balanced well enough, then they'll be more driven by the random movement and not by the noise system. Not sure where he went. Screamers, I don't hear him. You can see if I can find another one. Because the same is true for like the Banshees. So like currently we have the Banshees, you know, this kind of thing where they're just chilling down there doing nothing. I want them to start actually going up without a target. Shit. I hear one breathing. Yep. He did his scream. Let's see if this brings down the other one as well. I had this scream code working before, but it looks like, for whatever reason, that system is not working. I'll have to confirm that the reinforcement system is working as well. I think I'm going to try to look at this kick interrupt system for them to see if there's a way that I can basically turn off the kick interrupt for them. Only because, you know, the weapons do such a good job of not interrupting these guys, but then, of course, but then you kick them and they stagger back, and so that's another thing that it just makes them way less creepy if you can essentially just kick them off a roof. So let's see here. So to determine if this is too much, basically we say we have self position, we are storing our search position, and then we have this. So what I might do here is line this out to determine if this is basically overriding, because I think that's one of the things with this movement system is that it's kind of hard to know order of operations as far as like, is it firing every frame or how it's working for these guys to determine the timing of everything. Hey Amplitude, I just saw you jumped on.
Sorry, my mic wasn't working very well. Hello?
No worries. Hey man, how's it going?
Not bad. What are we up to?
Well, I'm trying to make these guys creepy, which is a fun job. But what I'm trying to do right now is I've got them moving throughout the city. Now I'm trying to identify, can I get them moving throughout the city and also randomly send them up into buildings and that kind of thing. So trying to see how far I can extend that code. As well.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, it took a minute. I think the biggest thing is that it's been easy getting them moving. The problem has always been trying to get them to move how you want them to. But after what I discovered yesterday, I'm also going to try to get in the difference between day and night for the biters. So at nighttime, the biters run instead of walk, kind of thing. They shamble during the day, they run at night. I think I might be able to actually pull that off now that I figured out how to get this going. So
That's very exciting.
yeah, because that's definitely, I've always wanted that split back because they used to have the concept of at night the biters were dangerous, and during the day, you know, they're shambling because of the sun. It's like a fat guard. I don't know why, he just looks a lot bigger than I think I've seen before.
It's a fat peacekeeper.
Yeah. Let's see. But they're actually, you know, now they're moving around quiet, and so you never know if you're gonna like run into one in the city now.
The horrid stomping up.
Yeah, there's like, wow, well that ain't work. Those crazy, loud 8 feet while they're slapping around.
They do have some scary stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. It's just you could definitely figure out where they were very quickly by just where their heavy footfalls were. Let's see if this.
Sort of why I was thinking of the dynamic between crawling around and then switching to running when. Oh, is that
That's my new screamer.
a running screamer?
Yeah, he's crawling and running.
I didn't know screamers could crawl.
They can now. So I'm trying to get rid of their. Originally, they were just doing the thing where they were doing kind of the slow walk and searching, and that was fine. But now I'm trying to play with this idea that they are similar to volatiles. They look like volatiles.
Well, they do come from the transitioning into a volatile phase. But
yeah.
They're like interrupted volatiles.
Right, so trying to like make them behave similar but still be unique is kind of the approach.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Trying to find. It's much easier to see screamers, obviously, because they're glowing in their icons. But as far as finding these volatiles, you always gotta kind of stand by to be surprised. One thing I was noticing, one thing I was like super excited by last night though is that now you have to listen for their breathing, so you can actually hear them like snuffling and breathing along with the screamers. The screamers actually have some really solid creepy audio for their so
wheezing or something because their lungs are being attacked.
Yeah, like clicking. They have like a clicker kind of. Okay, so now, okay. So he's moving. Let's follow him. And let's see if he goes up. So his code should be finding positions that are only up now. It's probably a matter of distance. I probably need to make it shorter so that he's not traveling so far away. Of course, that's not bad. If I can actually get them going upwards, maybe I don't need to have them find a location in front of them. Maybe I can just always find a location that's higher, and even if they are having to travel further to get to that higher location, that actually works just fine because then they're walking through the city to that higher location anyway. So And he got stuck on the stop sign.
How fitting.
Yeah. I'm going to try to see if I can increase their obstacle avoidance, because these guys get stuck all the damn time now that they're moving.
Highlighting the issue from yesterday when you mentioned that the game does not treat them as things that should be there.
Yeah, they shouldn't be moving is kind of the concept, unless they're like attacking. So if they're attacking, then they have the concept of a target. And so that's what I was writing for last night, is where most of their code is based on the concept that they have a target, and if they have a target, then they're moving in that direction. So, they're less likely to get stuck because it's moving around the environment. But now that they're picking a point in space and just randomly moving towards it, they are definitely getting stuck. Let's see if we can make him. Yay. He's back on his prowl.
See, this is exactly what I was hoping would happen when the game was first being teased. There's a lot of things you've done with your mod that were what I was hoping to happen when the first game was being the game was first being put out.
Thanks, man. Hey, look, he finally climbed. So he's up on a roof now. Let's see, what's the best way to get over there? Stalking the stalkers.
Hunting the hunters.
Yeah, so what I might do is I think I'll shorten the distances that these guys are traveling, so that way it might help send them up closer to their...
Seeing the Howler's crawl looks incredibly weird.
Yeah, I do like this better, like this one right here on the corner. I do like that creepy, crawly, rather than their walk, because they're just so much... Yeah, and I was looking at it the other day, and I'm sitting there going, like, it's kind of more fitting than the volatiles. Like, the volatiles should be, like, a more aggressive, like, hunting kind of thing. But these creepy, crawly, slow walk, I think actually fits really well with these guys.
Like, obviously they're all different zombie types, but the whole basis on the zombie life cycle is that they're volatile descendants, essentially. So, having them share similar behaviors is, quite fitting.
But I do also, so the stealth is obviously working a lot better now. So if people want to crawl through the city, they can. Oh, here's one.
I crawl a lot on the roofs.
So why is he just hanging out? Oh, he's shit. Well. Let's see if this works.
I crawl a lot on city roofs.
Oh shit. Hey, bud.
Are you playing on Ultimate at all?
This is casual.
Oh, curious as to why the regular zombies are now climbing up buildings.
I gave them a little bit more height so that they can start getting on
climb
top
up a little bit, but not. Climb up a small bit, but not a
it's
huge
because of
amount.
this. He climbed up. He climbed up the car and then he climbed up.
Right, I didn't see the van at all.
So we got one that's just kind of straight chilling out here. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Certain ones are crawling, certain ones are waiting. He does, so he sees me. He's just chilling. As long as I didn't, like, interfere with their ability to come do volatile things. Alright. So good. So their chase is working pretty well. They're able to stick with the target pretty well. Where'd he go? I think it's mainly just down to like nav mesh issues at this point. They're really just starting to show where they're not meant to. Oh, he's right there. They're not meant to climb through everything. And I did notice earlier that there were some times that they would get stuck up on objects, which is interesting.
Right.
So, like, I had one go to, like, the church steeple or whatever, like the slanted roofs. He basically hit, like, the center point of the slanted roof and then
that
didn't know how to act anymore.
they're not normally able to go up first.
Where'd you go? So now I need to bring back the mini chase. The mini chase spawn so that they're actually calling for more of these guys. If I can get that going, what I think I'll do here is probably shorten this range. So this range is actually pretty far out. Or, well, actually, so it's using this one. It's not even doing the distance calculation because it's now doing this. So maybe we'll say max horizontal radius. Maybe we'll shorten that down to like 3 and see how that affects them. Oh, sorry guys. I see a couple of people have been leaving comments on YouTube. Sorry, I got kind of engrossed in the search there. So let me answer some of these questions. Can we get flashlight casting shadows? Technically, I think that one should be in the HD version of the mod, the optional on I Am Legion Reborn on the Nexus. I believe that one is already been solved for. And Savitar, sorry about that, ask questions, file structure, and what X and Y script file does. I'm a bit lost, if I'm being honest. That's no problem. Feel free to just, ask any questions as I'm going, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. So if you have any specific examples of things you would like to have explained, I can try to do my best there. Let's make sure I have this one up as well. Okay, so with that radius being shorter, that should be good. And then also for the common update, this is where they're supposed to be doing the scream. So the volatile groan. And then potentially the issue is that they are doing the scream, but then when they do the scream, maybe it's like a capitalization issue. No. So volatile groan, range effective, duration, and then reinforcement ID, volatile hunt, and then reinforcement, volatile hunt. Maybe I need to turn this back on to like 1, maybe it's firing only 0 more often, and then chance to spawn is 1. Initial spawn delay. And then also, where is distance? I thought that was another one. No. The delay affected. I swear I remember there being a distance setting for the distance that it spawns the reinforcements. Initial delay. No? Okay. All right, so we'll try that again, and potentially it's one of these other ones that's actually breaking the... It's actually breaking this, so let me go ahead and remove... I mean, I guess if I do that, I need to go in here and make sure that I'm... Yes, that is already banded humans. Summoning horn. So I did already remove the Robin the Hood spawn group, but just leave that alone for now. Let's see, volatile. It's good to go. So let's test again really quick. So let's see if this sends them up faster. And that is the one caveat of having them walk is that they walk. So it takes longer. So actually, while I'm at it, I might go in here and just say run instead of walk. So for testing purposes, we can make sure they're doing what I need them to do. All right. Let's say source. Let's drop that in again. See, porting files, I'm thinking which code line changes stamina regeneration. So, so currently the player variable, so Savitar is asking questions on the YouTube. He's asking about the player variables, which I still need to confirm with the latest update that all of those systems are working as expected. But normally that is their kind of their dump site for lots of different variables. The problem with it is that there's like this weird timing thing with that system. So you can't always do the injection with the configurations. So I'm going to pause for a second while that There we go. So it does a whole bunch of different things. So it's kind of, I mean, talking about like swim, stamina, using the zip lines, running, fighting, all sorts of stuff are in those files. So there's a whole list of things that it changes. But what I've done is that in the hard and nightmare versions, there's a section that says I am Legion changes. And I've got those all broken out so they're separated from the main ones. So if you want to see the very long list, I'm going to try to set up all the documentation and everything before releasing 1.0 official. So that'll be easier to kind of catalog what all it does. And then also the stamina regeneration should be no longer affected by the mod for now until I do the difficulty balance. Once I do the difficulty balance, I'm planning on bringing back a lot of those changes, or at least making it to where people can edit those themselves and determine how difficult they want the game to be, whether they want stamina drain to happen or whatnot. Let's see. And then for your last question, Demolishers and Goons. So currently, yes, chases I try to make more challenging in general, to where there's a percentage chance of summoning Goons and Demolishers. So they won't always spawn, but they will occasionally spawn, and so that way it helps get the player moving away from that location. I think I saw one over there. I think I see one over there. Let's see if we can. Where'd he go? Oh. Well, the run one didn't work. Moving still. I think theirs is, they have run and then the run fast. It's interesting that changing that to run didn't change that. that's another thing that's been super challenging with setting all these things up is that every single zombie type has a different name for their walking and running and all of that. So you have to like, if you set it to the wrong thing with a different named zombie, it will not work properly. And so you have to like basically go crawl the code to find out all the different animations they can actually do. Where'd he go? Yeah, the running stamina has I pulled that out a little while ago, and I'm still planning on doing some form of that when we get the mod as the official. But for now, yes, that's been pulled out so that more people can enjoy the game without just dying because their stamina is at zero kind of thing. So I'm still looking at fun ways to implement that system. I was watching a video the other day when they were kind of talking about that, and because the climb system is so related to stamina usage, it makes it harder because your stamina is really like they've tied things like drowning to stamina and flying to stamina, and I mean it's they essentially only have health and stamina, and it's controlling everything in the game. So if you start causing stamina to drain rapidly, then the player can no longer do a lot of the normal things they could do. And so for some people that want to play a stalker game, that's fun, but for the average person, they don't want to not be able to move. I wonder if this is their very specific scripted one that they've introduced into the night. Because the interesting thing is that this one is doing the same loop. He's walking in the exact same way to the same places and then returning back to his spawn. So I wonder if this is one of their new event volatiles and not one of the randomly spawned ones that I've got. Because oh shit, well, hello. Because he's just doing the same thing over and over again. So let me try to run around a little bit and see if we can find one out in the wild, so to speak. You're welcome. There he is. Interesting enough, I think this like go high code is not working properly without certain conditions being met. So they were using that for the Banshee. But I think what I might try to do is instead of leaning on a condition setting everything, because now we have lots of them just kind of chilling. So potentially what's happening here is that the 3 distance that I set is not long enough to actually reach this building. So he's now just standing because he doesn't see one in here. So what I need to do is let's get them moving again first. So let's actually have them randomly selecting locations to move. So that's always a constant. And then let's try doing let's see, I think the easiest one is the code I was messing with yesterday, which is the stay back code or keep distance. Basically, they have this concept of a cooldown delta that is freestanding and just kind of by itself here. It doesn't hook up to any different profiles or conditions, but basically we can just go in here and give it the cooldown delta time. That out. And then what we can do here is take the concept of find the nearest elevation and on a timer have them every now and then get a position that is higher up, and we will actually put that to at least 5 so that they're getting a position. But what they should do is this should loop back to where they already have a position that they're moving towards. If this fires, then it'll allow them to get a position that's higher up, and that way they should always be moving. Which then I have to write in like pauses or something in here so that they're not just moving all the time. It would be nice to actually have them stop, but we'll see. Let's make that change, and then let's see if this at least gets them vividly shifting. And then while I'm at it, let's add this to the Banshee as well. So instead of having the Banshee sit around doing nothing, waiting for a target, let's see if we can get her also moving through the environment. So we have to go in here and say, let's go back to our volatile, go to general, say idle random walk, go back to Banshee, go to general, throw this in here, rename this to Banshee. And then on the volatile side, let's open up their behavior tree, and we will do the same thing to where we say if the condition is night, we'll go back to the Banshee and say, and to be honest, it doesn't need to be the condition is night, because I do like the idea of these guys randomly being in daytime as well. And so what we'll do is after chase, we'll take out is night. And Savitar had another question on YouTube. He's asking about the drowners and how they're very basic and they don't have a lot of logic. They are by far the simplest enemy in the game. They have one goal, which is run up to the player and blow up. Absolutely. I would love to change them, make them better. And so there's so many things I'd like to do to all the AI, though, that right now I'm trying to take the most common zombies first, fix them, and then get to the drowners when, once I figure out some awesome patterns for these other guys. Because things like screamers are such a wasted opportunity to do anything interesting or cool. They just kind of stand there. Let's make them fun as well. So, but absolutely. So, given time, I will change all the AI or try to improve all the AI. So they're only going to get better. Just kind of comes down to how many hours you got. So we can pull this out of the sequence because it's no longer matters if it's day or night. Do this random walk, and then we need to find out for the Banshees what their movement style is. So the easiest way to do that I found is to go to their investigate point of interest. And then in here we should see that they have, it looks like actually this is one that I've moved over from the infected, so but it works. So I should be able to just do the standard walk. And so let's see. We go in here, we'll change this back to walk, make sure that works. And so this way we can now try to test both the Banshees and the Volatiles. Give us something more to test out here. And then things like the goons. I was thinking about the goons the other day. Having the goons stomp around angry down on the streets sounds fun as well, so that they're not just standing in a circle. But kind of comes down to like, do you want all the zombies to behave the same way of searching the city, or do you want to have some that are like more territorial and that kind of thing? think the goons, I want to make them like patrol a small area so that they're constantly searching a small area for you so that they're not, I don't want them to go around the corner. I just want them to like move. They obviously are just kind of standing there. And then they also have this new prolonged UV behavior, which I think is where I've messed them all up, because I'm telling them to watch out for UV light, but it turns out that I think that there is still some code at night that is making them behave in a way that is not exactly how I expected. Most of them don't have the concept of prolonged UV behavior, so I've been trying to bring that over to all the different zombies, but I feel like I might have caused some of them to not be able to act properly, so I'm gonna have to write that one with a little bit more love and attention to get that to work correctly. So I'm actually gonna pull that one out, because I think that's actually the reason that the Banshees are not moving right now, and I'll try to re-implement that later. Go ahead and watch this. Yeah, I did an update not too long back where I was trying to add UV behavior to all the different zombies, and I think I probably need to just go back to Git and pull out that update completely, just because it ended up, I think, causing more problems than it helped anything. Because I don't think they actually all have the concept of knowing what sunlight is and that kind of thing. I think some of them are just meant to walk around. But now we have, you know, screamers in daylight occasionally and stuff like that. Just some weird light last night where I was playing until it went to daylight, and I noticed that a very large number of these special infected just kind of hung out, even though the game turned to sun. They started to die, but they didn't run away or anything, and so I'm going to have to continue to try to fix that issue.
You want them to actually think, we need to go and hide in doors now?
Well, they've got this condition in there that basically they run to a point and die in the logic, and I've removed that. And so now you start to end up with more weird cases of where they're just kind of hanging out, which is why people are starting to see them more. I didn't like the idea that they would go run away and die. I wanted them to like exist inside the city somewhere. But with that, I want to rewrite the code in general to where they're no longer using the condition that they have for running away. I've started doing this with the retreat for humans, of where I wrote my own version of retreat. And basically the idea is I want to cause them to run into dark zones. So have them, instead of running away and jumping into a window and despawning, I would rather them run into an actual dark zone that you can then go into, kind of thing. And well, I see them over there running. So one just took off and went running down the road. So the run is working. Oh, and there's another one running. So run is working. For testing purposes, that might help, or it might make harder to find these guys because they're all running. It's good to see that the run code worked. Oof, he's close. So yeah, he's down below me. Oh, he's stuck on a car. Come on. There he goes. Okay. Still standing there. Let me see if I can catch up. He ran back the other way, I think. Yeah. I need to actually turn off run or set the condition back to where I can see like it's daytime. So I can do more testing here. Or set myself to ghost mode or something here. I hear them out there for sure. And I probably should have added it to the... Some of these things are easier to test on the screamers than they are on any of the other zombies because there's so many of them naturally inside the environment.
Oh. This is really cool to watch, but now I think the problem's going to be that everyone's going to go with the fact that there's so many howlers on the map.
Well, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to turn them down. So now that I'm getting them to be more interesting, basically the volatiles and the screamers are about to get lowered. And the default is going to be set to where they don't have an icon, so that they actually are crawling around the city and you don't know they're there, kind of thing. You have to listen. Yeah, listen for them because right now they're I mean, absolutely. They're everywhere. That's great for testing, but at the same time, yeah, I'm going to drop these way down, so that'll be easier to enjoy instead of it just being boring.
The amount of howlers that there are, usually is fine for when they're not moving, but these ones are.
Yeah, now that they're crawling the city.
Shit! Now that they're not just sort of becoming.
That just scared the hell out of me.
Now they're not just watchmen. Their numbers will be quite overwhelming.
Let's see if we head over to this area. I still don't see... I mean, I definitely see them running down in the environment, but I guess I still just don't see as many on top of the buildings as I would like. But that's okay for now. I can continue to dial that in. Alright, here's one. If he can figure out how to walk, then I'll follow him. So he goes that way. Oof. See, I kind of like this. I mean, I think the timer is essentially... I think it's that condition. I don't think that condition's working correctly. Because you can tell that they're like running, and then they're stopping, and then they're running, and then they're stopping. And so because of that,
yeah,
I think it's that condition fires and it causes them to lose what they were doing, kind of thing. So instead of using that condition, I think I know of another operator that I can use. And I have a problem with the... So Savitar has another question on YouTube. He's asking, the UV flashlight not working. It illuminates Aiden's body and the affected just ignores the fact I used it. Do you happen to have the same issue? let me test that out here in a second and confirm that. And then also, I have a friend who joined. I can't say your name. I apologize. I'm not sure how to begin to say your name, so I apologize. But you say, how many hours do I have in Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2? Well, I have 103 hours on Dying Light 2, and that's probably 90% testing my mod. And then Dying Light 1, let's find out. Only 150 hours, so not that many. I go for quality, not quantity. Let's see. I didn't check the Banshee while I was doing that, but let's see here. Let's get back to the volatiles, and I'm going to try something different with the volatiles. And maybe I'll do the screamers first, actually. It's the same code on the screamers, but let's get rid of this operator for now because this isn't working. And there's another one that I know of. Get all those. Another one that I know of in the here, say find XYZ, nothing. Let's see, find position. Probably XZ and then it's probably XZ and then it's Y as a standalone. So let's do XZ. There we go. So in the biter chase code, they have this operator that is basically telling them to move and to use the nav mesh. And so instead of using my current move, which I have let's go ahead and line this out for now. Let's go in here and say, so this move is trying to find a destination. Instead of using that one, let's try to use the one that has the potential to fail. Let me make sure we have this backed up. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. So I'm working on a difficulty overhaul right now. So we should have a lot of changes here coming soon that will help you guys be able to find the right balance for the game. Because I do realize that, obviously they're all trying to slaughter you, and some people want that. Some people just want an improved game. So I'm trying to get in a difficulty update that will make it so that anybody can play the mod and have a good time. Because unlike the first game, it was just a slaughter. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit more everybody enjoy the improvements that I've worked on instead of it being only for the people that want the most intense experience, because not everybody's always feeling that. So let's go in here and say, I'll leave the Banshee stuff out until we figure that out. But with the fighters and all that, let's get that backed up. And then let's go here and say paste. So then with our end direction, we can basically say it has, we'll just call this end direction if we want to call that later. Here we say destination, last target position is what they're using right now. What we're going to use is distance. So it's calculating a random distance. Fail if destination is unreachable, which means it should fire back through and try to get another one. Max distance outside of the nav mesh is going to be calculated. I guess basically that's going to be the random position, but I'm not sure if I can do like that. And then also for the max difference on the Y, let's see if we can just give that a 5 and see if it'll actually use that. This is going to be calling walk. No, this is the speed. So we'll leave the speed alone and see what that does. I don't think it actually does anything for the volatiles. This needs to be walk, stop at destination, blend out, and then they're in direction. So let's try that and see if this gets them going up. And then actually while we're at it, let's go ahead and copy this over to the screamers as well. So that way we have lots of screamers. They're easy to see with lots of icons. So all of that should be backed up so that we can very easily test on them and then change that as needed. So let's see, investigate random walk. Let's go find out how broken this is. And then we'll also test that UV light as well, their Savitar. Cancel. It deleted everything. Must have hit Control X instead of, let's see, restore. Make sure that I didn't break anything. Yeah, we're good. All right. Again. Oh, in my config as well. That will break stuff pretty quick. You up to anything? Oh, no, that's not like one. You up to anything good today, Amplitude?
Nothing incredibly productive. I was out most of yesterday, so I'm very tired and achy for today.
Feel that.
No, I'm trying to. I don't know if I've mentioned this at all in the server, but I like to do my own music production just as a little hobby. I'm trying to put together a little project.
What kind of music?
Mostly electronic. I'm trying to sort of experiment with as much as I can get my hands on, but I mainly just like to make bass music.
Very cool. That's awesome. If when I switch over to making a game, I'll make sure to hit you up, see if you're available.
I'll be down for that. No, I'm trying to make like a. I don't suppose you know what the term EP is.
What's the term?
An EP.
An EPIG.
EP. As in the letters EP.
EP. As it pertains to soundtracks or music.
As in music terminology.
No, I know EQ and I know a couple others, but EP doesn't come to me right away.
EP stands for an extended play. Essentially, it's like a mini album.
Oh, nice.
Normally contains about, on average, maybe 5 tracks.
Okay.
Trying to put one of those together for an idea that I've had.
Nice. That's awesome.
So I've just been sort of working on that in the background and watching what you're doing as well.
That's great. Very cool. Let me know when it launches.
Well, not for a while.
No worries. I don't have anything else to do. I'm just over here modding, man.
No, I have I have everything. I have all my like ideas set out for it, so I know exactly what I want to do for it. It's just a matter of actually doing it.
It's just the time and all
Yeah,
the work
but
that goes into pulling it off, right?
it might generally not take as long as I'm expecting it to. What it essentially is I had one thing I like doing when I'm doing production is I like to take a scene and then try and put that into a track, and that scene could be literally anything. It could be the most personal event, or it can be the most blatantly casual, completely mundane event,
Sure.
and then try and put it into a track or a selection of tracks as I'm doing now.
That sounds like a lot. So I have some formal training and background in art and design, and very much
Yeah,
the thing you do to draw.
yeah,
or-
exactly. It's like, say, when people say, "Oh, think of something down and depressing and put it down a bit and draw it on a bit of paper."
Yeah.
Or you can go the other way and go, think of someone sitting by a river and put it down on paper. You can do the exact thing, but you can do that with a soundtrack instead.
Yeah.
Um,
That's very cool.
and what I'm doing
that's hard to
now
do.
is my idea right now is I'm trying to make a series of tracks that sort of have like the timeline of a social event.
Very cool. That's more props to you for the audio engineering. That's a lot of love.
I've already had my ideas set up, and I've got there's going to be 6 different soundtracks, and all of them apart from one are a collaboration with another person, because it's a social event. You're going to be hanging out with different people, going to be doing different things. And at the end of the collection, every single person who's participated in this little project, myself included, basically get together, work on one sort of big final ending tune, and then that closes it all off.
What is that site? Is it SoundCloud? Are you using anything like SoundCloud or anything?
I don't actually upload on SoundCloud.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were.
Most of my uploads, well, all of my uploads for the most part are YouTube, and the ones I can get them, and the ones where I can get them, Spotify.
Yeah, gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. There's just so many awesome art projects, out there that you never know what people are working on. That's just very interesting stuff. There's always something going on that. Thanks for sharing that, because as someone who, I kill a lot of time doing my design and work and stuff like that, and it's really kind of you have to have your own drive to take the time to go do all that stuff, and I don't meet a lot of people like that very often, and so it's always fun hearing about other people that are doing those kind of projects.
I always really like it when people start talking about any like artistic projects that they start working on, because you'll be surprised how often two completely different ends of the spectrum in terms of like visual art, audio art, anything like that can obviously translate really well into the different fields. Like I said earlier, you can very easily link like visual art and I'm gonna keep referring to it as audio art. It keeps sounding really weird in my head because I don't think that's the correct term for it, but I can't think of what the actual term would be for it.
Yeah.
But like the same sort of principles, the same sort of idea forming, sort of filling up empty space, having an idea, all of that. they translate really well into each other, and me and a friend of mine can have like really good talks about it, even though I don't do paper-based art. They definitely don't do audio-based art,
Sure.
but
Well,
um,
that's the
the
whole thing, right?
principles
Is different artists coming together, right?
the principles are always the same, which makes it easier to talk about.
Yeah.
And I end up sometimes going off on like tangents to people who like will ask a simple question about, oh, what do you do with this and this, and I have to warn them beforehand, like they're gonna set me off on a tangent, because there's some things you can't explain one thing about the field without explaining like 7 other different things that will
You're
have
singing to
some
the choir,
relevance
man.
to.
Absolutely. It's like you don't know what you're asking. Stand by.
You're not prepared for the answers.
That's very cool. Yeah, I tend to do that myself. Where uh, I before when I was like younger, I never did like art formally ever. I was always more computer science, and then when I started playing around when I got older with like game engines and stuff like that, I just kind of realized like with like game engines, you're never bored. Like you can always do something. The question is whether you're burnt out. You can always design something. And so I always have like 5 projects actively rolling around in here that I'm wanting to do, and it's always kind of like down to the time.
I know exactly how that feels. I have so many. I have a bunch of project files on this computer right now, which are either completely just strange, like I challenge myself to do this, or I want to know what happens if I put this down in a soundtrack, and they don't actually. Some of them haven't gone anywhere yet. Some of them have actually developed and ended up turning into actual projects. The reason I like doing like bass music as sort of my preferred go-to for music production is because of, well, generally how much you can fuck about with the sounds that are given to you.
Sure.
Because well, generally anything can turn into a coherent sound in like an electronic music track.
Sure.
I'll give some examples of what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to work on what I'm making as like the introduction track to this EP, and it literally just consists of texting and phone sounds, because I want to sort of have this idea that again, I have like a timeline that I want to pull off for it. So the intro track is sort of like messaging everyone and arranging the meetup for that to actually happen. So the track's just full of like texting sounds and little bleeps and bloops of different notifications going off.
Nice.
No, man,
that's awesome. Keep at it.
I have another one where it's actually me and my mate are sort of going head to head with each other, because we're making a hybrid track, which is mostly made out of pool table sounds.
Okay.
But we're also trying to do a thing where we're both sort of making our own little sections, and then we show them off to other people and sort of see which one they like, which one people like more, and the one that other people, well, when the vote comes down more, is essentially decided to be the winner of the game at the end of the track.
Very nice. No, that's I think that's always one of the biggest things is getting feedback, right? You got to find out what, people are so weird with like what they consider as like good art or interesting and that kind of thing. The longer you keep the project in the basement, the harder it is to like find where it falls, kind of thing. So I think that's great. You guys are getting that feedback loop in there early.
Yeah, we're sort of treating it as working together to compete against each other as well at the same time. Unlike the topic of feedback, I do actually try and like show off what I do to people quite a bit, because I like to hear what other people would they sit there and they can listen to it. It's not always going to be for them. It's electronic
Sure.
music. I
Yeah.
have a lot of friends that are not into electronic music at all.
Sure.
They're more into like metal. Some of them are more into like the drill, grime scene, which
Right.
it personally isn't for me.
I'm about to say, what is that? Like, what you said? What's the name of that genre?
What, grime or drill?
Grime or drill? I don't know. Well, I know grime, but I don't
Okay.
know drill. What is drill?
Drill is. I actually need to find a better way to word this. I know what drill sounds like, but it's trying to describe it, which is a problem.
See, this is interesting. So, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
the screamers don't use the nav mesh logic. So I tried to switch them over to where they were using the nav mesh logic to get them walking through the scene, and now using that type of condition doesn't work at all. And so I think that's actually one of the challenges here, is that I think maybe that's the same with the volatiles as well, is that when they start a chase, it's using the nav mesh, but if it's not doing a chase and it's not using a target, then it's not using the prediction model, which means therefore it's not calculating anything on the nav mesh, which maybe is a performance thing. Maybe that's the reason that they're not doing it, is that they don't want all of their AI out there calculating based on like an actual agent system. And so that's interesting. I essentially, these guys, all of them no longer move because I switched it over to the nav mesh based movement
Which
system.
requires a target for them to start moving.
Potentially, because they're no longer, basically I was looking at really quickly all the code that was related to how they were using the system, and all of it is target based. So they use it, is the target within this radius? If it is, go get that target, and all of that is prediction based. And so it's really interesting that it's like there's a split in all the logic systems here, to where like some of them, and it looks like the only reason I'm able to actually pull this off, and I'm glad I stumbled onto that one first, because I would be very frustrated if I had started here and none of this works, which I've tried before. But last night I stumbled onto the simpler one, which is just basically send them in a direction. And if it sends them in a direction, then they randomly encounter objects that they can climb on and that kind of thing. But I think the problem is that they're not using the nav mesh system, which means the object avoidance, where they're getting stuck on cars and stuff like that, wouldn't work, because all of that's the nav mesh system informing where the collision is going to happen. So that's interesting, because if I can't force them to use the nav mesh system to move, then their movement's going to actually be really simple, and that's going to end up with a lot of glitching. Maybe but I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just trying to get a thought out, because it's always down to, as I always put it, the lesser evil here, because basically if you find a solution, that solution is only good if it's causing a ton of nasty bugs and stuff like that, because then you release that work and people are like, oh, this looks terrible. You can't even do enough testing to get ahead of most of that stuff if it's not using the systems properly. Because then they're gonna, you can't explore every part of the entire map for your testing. So it kind of comes down to like where, I mean, that being said, based on what I've seen with the nav mesh, they don't have the nav mesh set up very well either, where even the enemies running across the rooftops will occasionally do random stuff that you don't expect them to, when jumping from like building to building. So even getting these guys to use the nav mesh might end up causing the same amount of glitches. So now it's coming down to like, should I Should I use simple or should I kill myself trying to get the nav mesh working? I don't know yet. Viral chase. What were you saying though? I apologize.
Fuck, what was I saying?
You were we were talking you were talking about the music type drilling. Or drill.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the artist Pop Smoke? Well, he was around.
Nope.
Okay. Trying to think. I'm. See, this is the
I
problem
can
I
pull him
find.
up easy enough. I mean,
This is the problem I find. This is my biggest problem with trying to talk music to people. Is it's so much easier to show them the actual music rather than try and explain it.
That's okay. I'm pulling it up.
The words for the words to describe music sometimes.
How does one describe? I'm gonna go ahead and mute the audio for the desktop one real quick so I can listen to this. So it's using more of the technical element to try to enforce or enhance the genre.
The way I remember drill music is the cymbals of the hi-hats have like a very sort of rapid, basically drilling kind of pattern and sound to them.
Sure. Give me 1 second. I got a question on here. Hey Jennifer, thanks for jumping on. When you say do I know where to get the inhibitors? Are you referring to the new New Game Plus inhibitors, or are you referring to just inhibitors in general? Yeah, so I think I'm going to switch back this movement type back to the simple one for now. And what I need to do is look and see what past this. So if they're moving in a direction, now we start to say, can they do more on top of this? So instead of trying to blend between the nav mesh and the movement system, maybe what I can do here is start to say, and that being said, I don't have the debug code, so I'm not even sure if this is using high locations as well. So technically this could be using the Y position as well. So there's no way of knowing whether or not this is Z only because it's, well, let's see. I'm saying get position. The position is then getting random float. I guess I could try to say get. I could try to say get random float on the Y as well, but there's no way of blending that in. If let's go back to the Banshee, I guess. Did that answer your question, Jennifer? As far as where you mentioned where the inhibitors are, or you were asking me a question? I want to make sure I answer your question there. Make sure I also don't have anything on the Discord. Yeah. Banshee. Maybe they jumped off. I'm not sure here. Hey, Savzar. I did not get a chance to test the UV flashlight. Let me actually go back to that. I was messing around with a couple of those systems here, and I got distracted. So I'm gonna try to pull that back up. And I'll test that out. But basically, continuing to try to find the options for trying to continue to look at the options for using what looks like a very simple movement system to get these guys moving around, to try to determine if I can start blending in other behaviors as well on top of that system, because it looks like there's a nav mesh way of doing things and then a simple movement way of doing things. And so I'm kind of trying to figure out which one I can actually get away with. So instead of, so one of the things I've learned before is that basically, instead of trying to write new behavior trees, if behavior trees already exist, what you can do is try to hand it off to other systems as long as you loop back. So it that works as long as you fire that loop and then it like comes back to this one. If you can establish that circle pattern, then that works really well. Because, for example, we could have these guys moving out into the environment and then basically say hand off to the investigate point of interest. So we get them moving. And then also, if they hear a noise, then they shift in that direction. So we get them moving, we hand it off, and then let the other systems do what they need to do. Instead of trying in this one system to write everything to where we're having them move, then we're accounting for them discovering things, all that other stuff. It becomes much easier to cause glitching by rewriting a system and writing a system that does everything rather than just writing a system that properly hands off to their other intelligent systems. So I think I'm going to start trying to do that with these different ones instead of writing the different ones into this. I'm going to try to hand it off, and we'll just see what happens. So, for example, with each one of these, I think basically all we need to do is go to the behavior tree and then say hand off to this system. So down here at the bottom, we'll get them moving, and then we'll have them switch over, and then hang on. So this is probably also why. Make sure this is lined out. So that's the Banshee. And I actually just recently created the Volatile's own version of Investigate Point of Interest that's not based on what they were originally doing, which is just the generic AI. I've now got that set up to where it's a very unique volatile version, and I'm going to start dialing that in as well. So this will hand off to that new system. Then lastly, with the screamers, they also have the volatile version of investigation. So let's go here, say screamer. And basically what we need to do is in the screamer system, basically if it doesn't detect anything, what it should do, we won't write the loop in just yet because we want it to first go through here and fire all the way through their systems. And so what it should go is go back to the behavior tree, fire through all of these, and then go back to walking. So if it didn't determine that there was a stimulus, it should fire back through and say, nope, there wasn't a stimulus, I'm good. So that it keeps them moving. And then also, another problem there though is that potentially this will cause them to stop their movement so that they'll get a new position every single time. So we'll have to try to see if this works because it might end up causing them to cycle their knowledge for the new position over and over and over again. So we might have to put that back in. So Salvatore just asked on YouTube why their patrolling is not part of the system, why the devs didn't put that in. The answer is they did, but then they tore it all out. And I also found where there were bugs in the code, and I've repaired the bugs. But the reason that the system doesn't crash with those bugs, I think, is because they tore all of those systems out, or disabled all of them. Pause for a second with this load. There we go. I think essentially the issue they were having is they were probably encountering. I mean, when you think about it, as far as like a game launching, as a modder, I can get away with writing in bugs. You know, if I write in some bugs and some things don't work well, like I don't have to really be as worried. Obviously, I want to fix those, but it wouldn't, like if I was launching a game that I was asking people to buy. Obviously, you don't want any bugs to be obvious, or people will just tear it apart. And so what they did was, I think they just went in and disabled every risky system that they've detected any bugs with. They basically just were like, okay, hang on one second, let's just disable this logic long enough to.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
Sure. Do more testing. Interesting. They're not moving at all. Huh. Over here. Oh, it's because this is still not my original movement. Yeah. Yeah, well, when it comes to the different ones, like for example with the hives, I can't actually answer that for the hives because there is a ton of code in here that says, this is how the hives should behave. But yeah, there's no concept of hives right now, but there were hives in the first game, and there's definitely a crossover right now where there's plenty of code in here from the first game. So I'm not really sure if that's where they're trying to support content that was in the first game that they're planning on bringing back, or if that is where they're writing new code that they haven't implemented yet. But I mean, they could come out and release like a major overhaul for the game that goes and changes a bunch of things. But like adding hives, I feel like they would have had hives in the game on release if they were planning on doing those. I just don't know how they would implement those at this time without having to change major parts of the game to pull that off. So I'm not sure we're going to see hives in the game at this point. That's actually one of the reasons I'm trying to get the code working, or at least figure out how to write some of the behavior code to determine things like dark zones, so that in the day you do have concepts of hives, which is basically anything that is considered a dark zone or a covered area has the potential of being a hive. I mean, essentially, the hives in the first game were just uh, dark areas, dark tunnels, and that. So if you think about it, if I can get the AI to determine what a dark area is versus in the sunlight, then technically any area that is dark has the potential to be turned into a hive. Um, the difference is that there won't be like actual event objects inside that space that are based around the concept of a hive. But it's pretty exciting stuff. I mean, compared to the first game, they had very few zombies on the insides and stuff like that. Most interiors were empty. You had the zombies out in the streets. They could walk inside, but they had to actually walk inside. So they couldn't climb inside, and so they're changing a lot with this game. They still made the interiors kind of empty during the day, but it's nice to see that there's that potential for getting those systems working. Now, what is going on here? I think I need to probably remove. I can't remember if I've been doing this, but I need to probably go in here and delete the code rather than. And then also is that I have that turned off. So screamers, volatiles. So sensitive. Let's go in here and say idle. Screamer, and for the volatile, let's just go ahead and discard this completely. Let's see. I changed the run stop back. So let's say walk. And then for the Banshee, let's then copy this over and just make sure everything's working again, because now it looks like too many things have gotten conflicted at this point. That loop is not firing properly, at least. So let's see. Let's confirm this all works. There we go. All right, so we got these guys moving again. Okay, so the nav mesh stuff really does break them pretty much immediately. So now that we have, well, can have these guys moving, but I see a volatile not moving. Confirm. We have a couple of volatiles in this area. Let's see if we can spot one here. Yeah. He's just standing there. Well, they hurt somebody over there.
Alright, what have I missed?
Well, for some reason, the volatiles have now broken.
Broken how?
They're not moving anymore, so I'm trying to get back to something where I was testing with the nav mesh and everything. There's something now different about the volatiles, but that's okay. I've got backups. I'm just trying to make sure that's the problem with doing this code, is that like you have to test a million times because you never know when you're going to just accidentally, something's going to stop working. So it's like,
yep,
if you go too far down the rabbit hole, then it breaks and you can't figure out like what broke, why did it break, when did it break. So let's go in here and say, but I've got the spitter or the screamers working correctly again. So that's the interesting part, is that their code should be the exact same right now, but seeing here is that apparently it's not. So let's go and see what's different here. There's that lined out code. Huh. Shouldn't have caused it to not work though. Interesting. Okay, so let's get this loaded back up and just confirm that everything is working. Make sure our base is there. And keep expanding. But I was thinking a little bit more about it, and I think that the investigate point of interest stuff is working in parallel, because when I threw the knife earlier and got its attention, that wouldn't have worked without investigate point of interest. So let's go in here and try to upset everything and make sure everything's working as expected here. And then I'll do a really good backup, push out to get all that good stuff. Make sure that doesn't get lost in translation. And then also I'll try the Savitar. If you're still on here, I'll try the UV flashlight. Keep forgetting to do that. And then let's double check, make sure the Banshee, that is working with the Banshee as well. Because technically, if it gets them moving in a random direction and they're encountering a place to climb, as long as their locomotion is set to where they can climb, technically they will climb. It's just a matter of getting them onto things like rooftops. They'll randomly get up to a rooftop, but I was trying to see if I could send them to the rooftops.
How many of the things that you've put in your mods? So I know you've made this mod for like. There were some people that had problems with mechanics in the base game. There's also people that wanted a harder experience. Is there anything that you've put in this mod that is there strictly just because you wanted it in there?
Huh. I guess that's a good question. So I was looking the other day, and oh shit, when I was talking to a few people the other day, or it was Fear yesterday, I was looking at the first mod again for the first game, and I realized it was like 189 changes, I think, or files for the first mod for the first game, and this one is something like 6,850 changes or files. So, um, because of that, it is basically primarily what I have been trying to do to make the game more intense or more difficult or more interesting. And then the whole point of the Discord is that people are giving, feedback on the systems and then letting me know what they like or dislike. Um, but I would say that the first mod for the first game was very much a me project, and the version that I'm making for this game is very much a me project with feedback. So, um, trying to make sure that I get in everybody's feedback into the game and try to implement the different systems they would like to ideally see. Um, but a lot of that, it's interesting. So she's glitching. So the movement system is probably fighting a different system. But I would say out of those, 6,800 files or whatever, I would say 99% of that are things that I'm interested in or things I'd like to see for the mod. And then they've been slightly modified or curtailed to people's feedback. But the original idea of the biters running at you, and the player not being able to do what I'm doing right now, which is I'm crawling through the city and the city's not actively trying to slaughter me at all times. This is technically a version of the mod that I want the AI to be more intelligent to make the game more challenging, but this is definitely not how I'll play the game. I'll play the game with the whole city trying to slaughter me at all times, just based on my play style. So it's kind of you know, it's a combination of different things. But I essentially, as a designer and a coder, I want to make the game or the mod, especially with this many hours put into the mod at this point, I want to make it as forward facing as possible so that more people can enjoy my work instead of making it, only for myself. Because obviously that will only carry so far. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, no. I was sort of seeing if there was any like specific changes that were there. Sort of. So I'm assuming you're saying that most of these changes are primarily off of what you wished was there instead.
yeah, I mean it pretty much the whole drive here is what I wish that the game actually was, and then I try to get in people's feedback as much as possible.
So if it was you that wished demolishers would chase you up buildings as well.
Absolutely. I think the challenge is that having not played the game all the way through from start to finish yet, I'm still trying to do my official playthrough here at 1.0. Some of the feedback that I've gotten on some of the different systems, like the demolishers climbing and that kind of thing, were based on people's feedback or asking for better versions, or just seeing, I think, demolishers. The biggest demolishers was that I made the rest of the game very difficult, and so I made the rest of the game very difficult. And then when you saw their most difficult creature in the game, the Demolisher, they basically walk around very slowly and they're boring. So it becomes kind of this like need to balance as well. This need to like make them, more of a threat. But the point of the Demolishers is that each special infected is categorized in a way that they present a new challenge. So that the reason I introduced the Demolishers to the chase is because if they can throw a rock and it causes the player to fall or to stop their run, uh, then they're presenting a new challenge for halting the player in their tracks and slaughtering them, in a way that could never happen in the base game. Essentially, the base game, as everybody's pointed out, is like, well, all you have to do is open your paraglider and you're safe. So,
Not even that at times. Sometimes you jump across the building and all of a sudden they just cannot get to you.
right. So because of that, it kind of comes down to like, okay, well, how can I make them? How can I make an AI that will keep you from jumping across the building? Like, oh, okay, well, we have some demolishers, so let's see what that would be like if the demolishers could slap you down when you're trying to get away. So that way you end up with the occasional oh shit situation of where you got them running at you. And then things like adding the goons. Once I got the goons running, I think the goon is probably my favorite out of all the AI when running.
There's a lot of things, quite a few of the zombies that you've sort of changed the AI and the patterns for, and they've become so much more intense to play against. When you did 0.9 and we had when you first introduced goons like running in basically all versions, I didn't quite know what the hell to do. I ran into a dark zone, I saw a goon, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna... The goons have always been the zombie type that are really easy to tease.
Yeah.
Less so in the second game, the virals are easier to tease now that they just run outside and die.
Yeah.
But in the first game, the goons have always been incredibly easy to sort of poke fun at because they're a bit slow.
Yeah.
And not very deadly.
Yeah.
And I walk into the dark zone and I just start throwing shit at the goon, and then it starts running, and I sort of have this moment where I go, okay, shit, what do I do here?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I am bitter about is that they've locked away their locomotion system pretty well to where even the concept of making AI be able to climb when they normally can't is actually impossible. I mean, maybe not impossible, maybe I just missed it, but I wasted like half a week trying to get the AI that cannot climb to be able to do the connection between the nav mesh using the default locomotion systems, which use their default animations. And they basically made it to where all of that is locked to where the best you can do is change them to a different type of AI in their locomotion. So it's like, for example, if you want them to climb, then they have to be either a viral, biter, volatile, or banshee. And that's it. Every other type doesn't climb and doesn't have the ability to make them climb. And so
a zombie type that is given the ability to climb in that instance.
exactly. And so it's like when looking at it, you're sitting there going like, so essentially you have four animations. Sorry, I held up four animations to choose from. Are they a biter? Are they a volatile, a banshee, or a viral? And the frustration I'm having right now with the Demolisher is that I gave them, in order to get them climbing, I had to turn them into a viral, and that's fine, other than the fact that these virals have these really weird walking and stuttering, kind of like shaking animations. And so now the Demolisher looks like a deranged, ape as it walks around the city. And that's scary in its own way, I guess, but at the same time it's kind of like, come on, like I want to be able to take their base level stuff and modify them more to where I can just make a Demolisher climb, in the natural way that a Demolisher might climb. So there's been a couple of frustration points there, but with the ones that I mean, the goon was just the most obvious one. Is like, all right, let's just make this goon behave to where they actually run, and that thing is trippy. It's like, get the hell out of here. Like, it just like there's no part of that doesn't make you want to just say like, all right, I'm out. Like, I can't. There's just nothing I can do about this. And
Generally,
so,
almost. I think the entire time I was in that dark zone. And the moment I noticed that the goons were running, I think I spent about like 10 minutes inside that dark zone, and I spent 5 of them sitting above the goon, going, "What the fuck do I do about this?"
like, how do I even deal with this guy? Like, you know, he's
And
obviously slaughter me.
when you first introduced demolishers being able to climb, I grabbed my friend and was like, "Right, Doc's managed to make the demolishers climb. I need to see that happen." So I went into the one dark zone that is in the central loop that I know for a fact basically consistently has a demolisher inside of it.
Yeah.
And we both went and pissed it off. And I was about to believe that it wasn't gonna climb. It kept like walking over to ledges and like looking like it's about to climb, but
Yeah.
then it just forgot how to and turned back around and started throwing rocks. I was like, okay, I don't think the climbing's working. And then it decided to climb. And it decided to climb up at the one spot that I was very easily cornered by it.
Yeah, they
The tension of the fight sort of rose from there.
well, I've been trying to look at like with their behavior trees, they basically it's like it's very different from any system I've ever messed with before in the sense that it's like it basically will sit there and try over and over and over and over and over to do something in that list. And some of them are meant to do it by timing, and then some of them are meant to do it like every single second. And so it's so easy to break their knowledge by removing or trying to add something that doesn't fit correctly. But um, another side thing is like, okay, so the demolishers are just pissed, and so they're just gonna throw everything. I wish I could make them throw cars. I wish I could make them throw all sorts of stuff.
They were able to throw
like a
cars
tank.
in the first game.
What's that?
They were able to throw cars in the first game.
Yeah, I found where they've got throw heavy object, but then none of the objects can be thrown. So I don't know if they're going to change that to where they're going to make those objects throwable, but not currently.
Just sounds like more and more they had like an absolutely like fully fleshed out with all the different sort of mechanics ready to go, and then they all just sort of disappeared before release.
Yeah, I think somewhere along the line somebody told them like, hey, if we want this game to succeed at all, we're gonna have to strip it. We just got to strip it all down and get it out there, earn some money from the release, and try to fix some of these things. And I mean that's essentially the same thing that Cyberpunk did. I mean they're actively working on their game to try to make it any better. Um, and I keep trying to go back to it. Is like the last time I tried Cyberpunk, I was like in it. I was like, all right, I'm gonna play this game and try to get as far as I can with it. And I launched the game. I got a great save game going. There was some crashing. I fixed it. You know, I was enjoying it. Literally 3 years they did make it, and it worked. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, no, let let me know when you're done updating the game and I'll try it again. But like I'm not gonna like go dump 180 hours into a game and then just lose that save game. Like it's gonna drive me nuts.
I hear Cyberpunk's not doing like incredibly badly now.
No, people like it for what it is. I would say that like compared to like a Grand Theft Auto kind of game, like it doesn't stand a chance right now as far as its city immersion. But I think that was always my biggest problem is that it's not very immersive as a gameplay. Like it's interesting, but it's definitely not immersive. You probably would do better to not pay attention to a lot of the small details, because that'll probably ruin it for you pretty quick. Okay, so from here we now have screamers are moving, volatiles are moving. Goons have been updated, so goons should be moving. I need to like dial them in, but they should at least be moving around a small radius kind of thing. Banshees should be moving, but they were glitched last time. Let's see if they're actually. That's a charger. So, let's see.
The one
Which-
zombie other than the drowner, I think, generally serves no purpose.
Yeah, I haven't really decided what to do with them. As far as like how to make how do you make this guy creepy? I don't think you really can make him creepy. If
It's just
anything,
sort
I
of
think you could
It's just sort of like a dwarf demolisher.
like you could just kind of make them annoying because all their attacks are like super obnoxious. So it's like as far as like technically these should be on the rooftops. I think of like being able to knock the player to their death. There's been a couple of times where they have been on the interiors and they've charged me and caused me to fly out of the building and die on the street, and that's actually been like decent. Like hell yeah, that works. But like down here, like why would you even come down here? I guess you know what I mean. But oh, did he kill himself? He charged into a can. And I got perfume. Hell yeah. I wish there was a way to take like perfume and like make a potion or something that makes you like, call it like zombie bait, and like that makes all the zombies on the map come after you kind of thing.
Yeah. Maybe you can make perfume smell. You can get perfume and make it smell so like horrid that they all think you're zombies.
Exactly. Well, it's like the two different pathways. One is like to help blend you into the environment, and then I went the other way with it. Of what if it makes you like a target in the environment, so everything knows where you're at. So if you want to farm half the city, it reminds me of like in Terraria they had the candles. Okay, so she's jumping around.
It's like the cloak potions that you get from the witch in the first game.
So she. Well, it's not really useful now because, well, I guess I can study her and see if she has the glitching that people have been saying. A couple of people have been saying she's really broken with this latest update.
I've noticed your banshees are more ballsy. They like to attack from a little bit closer.
There we go. What?
Oh, well. Oh, yes. The old classic bug.
That's it's pretty good. It's pretty good. That kick versus the special infected, that really just seals the deal as far as a deadly weapon. All you have to do is just kind of kick them on a ledge.
Banshee's worst enemy, the souls of your ship.
Let's see if I can find a special infected here. Yeah, so I was thinking about it earlier. I think with the 1.0 release, or possibly sooner, I think I'm going to pull out the idea of hostages down on the ground, to where the humans have taken a hostage, like down on the ground kind of thing. I think I'm going to get rid of that encounter and potentially a couple of the other ones that are like very easy for the human AI to just be wiped off the map like so quickly. Because like now with the new system, there's just no way that they're gonna survive beyond like a couple of seconds of combat. Um, they just get wiped out so fast. So I need to figure out a way to like go in and change some of the base ones. Can you think of any of the like storyline? Can you think of any of the storyline ones that would make like the hostages, like the need for the hostages to be in the game, like to where that would be a problem if I remove them from the open world?
There's, I think there's a mission on. There's one mission I know of where you first meet Lieutenant Rowe, and there's renegades holding the peacekeepers hostage.
But that's more of a scripted like quest.
Yeah, I don't know if removing the hostages will just like delete that from happening. I don't actually think there's any like spawn hostage situations. You're a bit far from me off there, buddy.
Yeah, so I think the encounter ones that they've put in, I've seen a couple of times where they react with my movement code, but I feel like they're on their own, like they're just kind of doing their own thing. I still haven't found any special infected icons out here. Well, now it's about to be a chase. I think overall, I think this is pretty good for casual. I think you can run through the city and still survive fairly easy, but I think this will be enough for people to still play the lore and enjoy the city without it being too crazy. Is it just me, or are there more special infected spawns inside Old Villador than out here?
A good chance.
I just feel like I've been running around for a little bit. I just don't see any icons. Hey, Z-Transfer, thanks for joining me on the YouTube stream. No, absolutely not. So the mod can be removed, it can be added at any time, and you shouldn't have any problems. So feel free to install any updates that come out, and you don't have to start a new game at all. I will say that I have started some of my changes to the like monetary system so that there's less just bundles of cash everywhere, so you won't have that part of the game unless you start over with the mod installed from the get-go, in the sense that you won't have as much money in the bank kind of thing. But that's kind of a money isn't really it really hasn't found its place in this game yet anyway, so so that's kind of at your own discretion. I feel like most people I've talked to have said that money has become like not important after like, you know, half the game. Then it's like they have more money than they know what to do with.
Yeah.
Well, if I could find a Banshee, I think I need to increase the Banshee spawns for sure. Turn those down to make way for the Screamers, but now we have Screamers everywhere and no other special infected, so... Oh, look at that. Okay. Alright guys, I think I'm going to take 5 and go stretch my legs, get up, move around a little bit. Looks like we have several new systems kind of working, but the problem is that I think it's a lot of balancing with the spawns now, so I'm going to continue to try to reshuffle those spawns to where, you know, screamers and stuff like that are a little bit less common, so you don't have so many of those crawling all over the streets. And volatiles, I would actually argue, you know, I know a lot of people were having trouble with so many of them before, but when I play through, I mean, I see like 1 to 2 every couple of blocks kind of thing. So I'm still trying to find the balance for the mod, but I'm also trying to make that spawn be able to set in the config. So I think the primary focus is trying to make that a config based spawn thing so that you guys can set that as you want. So that way, if you want hundreds of them in the city, you can get that, or if you want 1 in the city, you can get that. So thanks for hanging out again, Amplitude. You've been kind of just cheering me on these last couple of days. I appreciate it, man.
No worries.
But I'm going to take a breather, and I'll be back on this here in a little bit.
Alright, take care of yourself, Buck.
Talk to you guys later.